Welcome to the Autosportradio.com show. We are coming to you from Green Street Pub and Eatery at 911 North Green Street in Brownsburg. This program is being presented by the Indy Dental Group. Indy 500 veteran Dr. Jack Miller and his wife Dr. Liz Lewis have a phenomenal practice. They're now up to 6 offices. If you need dental work, you think you haven't had any check lately, you need to check them out. Give them a call, make an appointment. The number is 317-846-6125. Their main office is at 92nd and Meridian. It's easy to get to off the interstate. If you need dental work or you haven't had a check them out. Need insurance? VP Insurance is the place to go. They're located at 5004 West 16th Street, about a mile straight west of the Speedway. You can talk to Mike Pardee or Tom, find out what you need, they'll help you out. And I've been with them for over 30 years, and every time I check, like the insurance commissioner says, they're the best. Give them a call, the number is 317-248-0070. SVRA, what a phenomenal organization it is. They got the F3 and the F4 series now, run by Scott Goodyear. They have brought back the Trans Am series to bigger than what it used to be. It's phenomenal. Want to find out where they're performing or what the events are? Go to svra.com and you'll be glad you did. They got sports cars, vintage sports cars. They got the Trans Am. They got the F3 and the F4. They got a full weekend when you go see them. Welcome to the Autosportradio.com 2024 show. I'm your host, Don Kay, and we are here at Green Street Pub and Eatery in beautiful Brownsburg. First couple of things I got to say is the in-house sound is courtesy of Pierce Sound Production. And if you're having a kindergarten party or something and you need some sound over the screaming kids, go to Chadwick Pierce on Facebook and book him. He's always available, never too busy. And our next program is scheduled for next Tuesday, a week from today, and it will be on the 14th, and it will be at McGilvery's. And then on the 23rd, in case anybody here has been around long enough, on the 23rd we will be here, and my special guest is a guy from California, Dick Simon. So if you remember Dick, you want to come and see him, talk to him, harass him, he'll be here. My first guest is a gentleman that's had quite a career. He started out racing, became a heck of a mechanic, I think out in California, if I remember right, and came here, and for the last 30 plus years, he's been the managing director for Ganassi Racing. Please welcome Mr. Mike Hull. What made you get out of the car and grab tools?
Well, hold on to that, Don. I temporarily stopped because I was 28 years old and I had a son, and open wheel racing was a bit dangerous then. And I decided I'd stop for a bit of time, and then there was a guy that raced in California that offered me what I thought was a lot of money to work on his race car, and it was a lot of money at the time, and I worked on his car, and I think that year he raced 18 times and won 15 races. So I never had a problem getting a job in motor racing after that, but I decided I wanted to try to get to what I'm doing now, which was IndyCar racing, or is IndyCar racing, and been really fortunate over the years to be doing what I'm doing.
How did you and Chip hook up?
I was doing in those days what would have been considered to be ladder system racing. I was doing a car in the Formula Atlantic Series that raced in Canada and America in the Pro Series, and we were at Lime Rock, Connecticut, and we were running an SEC national race, club race, to get ready for the Pro Atlantic race a month later. And there was this young guy, a guy named Joe Stamola was looking after him. He was a guy from the East, and I was introduced to Chip Ganassi. And he was racing Formula Fords at the time in the northeastern part of the United States. And so first met him there, and then befriended each other over the years, and finally knuckled under and went to work for him.
I got to speculate that on a daily basis you talk to him at least once, if not more.
Yeah, I have to charge the phone and the phone battery. Yeah, we talk quite a bit.
You know, it's interesting how he has come on, because when I first started coming, he was, as you said, he was a driver. And after he got into the team, his dad, Floyd, would come to the race, and he took pictures of everything and everybody. And I just found that the Ganassi racing was kind of an interesting operation. I like to keep an eye on what was going on there. And one thing you will learn if you ever talk to Chip, there's only one thing he wants, and that's a win. And he'll do whatever it takes to do that. No,
Almost
not everything.
almost
Yeah.
everything. We don't need to get into that.
No.
Yeah, what's terrific about Chip is his will to win and the fact that it's all in one sentence. And the sentence is not long. So when he asks you what you need to improve the team and you tell him, he goes and finds it. And he's a fantastic owner, massive passion, understands people and understands the mechanism of people that work together, and that means unselfishly in his mind, to achieve what we've achieved over the years. Frankly, when I went to work for him, he was very volcanic, and there were ashes everywhere. And I didn't think I'd last 6 months with Chip Ganassi, frankly. But I was really fortunate at the time because there was a guy named Tom Anderson that worked there that was the general manager, and he was the net. He allowed me to do what I was hired to do, which was to build up the competition side of the team. And that's what I worked on, and Chip provided the resource, and we changed a few people around and we started winning, and we've won ever since.
It's amazing how the team has performed week in and week out. And as we were mentioning, they hired the driver from last year, and in his third points race, he was on the podium. And I want to get him back because people that saw the video said, wow, this is a very interesting kid. Can you get him back? I said, well, I'll try.
Yeah, he's definitely the real deal. And what's in common for him or with him compared to a lot of the drivers that we've had over the years, number one is the ability. Two is the ability to work with other people. And three, he doesn't have, or he doesn't, and as time goes on, this will change, he doesn't have a financial fallback position. So he has to win. But he knows how to win. If you study his career all the way from karting forward overseas before he came to the United States and won here, he's won in every category that he's been in. And he's fun.
Yeah, he seemed like a real interesting
And he's
young
fun,
man.
so it makes it even better.
And when I interviewed him, he hadn't been in the car yet. He had just signed on with Ganassi and was all giddy and couldn't wait to get going. Now I'd like to talk to him now that he's been in 4 races, 3 points races, and got a podium right off the bat. And of course, I'm sure Chip is going, yippee.
I think so, yeah. And we were racing for hiring race drivers it's not about networking, it's about timing. And it's the crossover of the hire at that moment in time and then putting it together and surrounding that driver who has the ability with people that exhale as they win. And he's definitely legitimately a separator. He'll do well.
And of course, you have a guy by the name of Scott Dixon. And I can't tell you the emails that I got when he won. I said, how in the world did he do that? He's on a fuel saving, which he's known to be able to know how to do better than anybody. Still leading the pack, nobody could get by him. And then finally, when you told him you got enough to go, he stabbed it and steered it, and off he went.
That's funny. I asked him about that after the race. I said, why didn't you get after it? Why did you wait till you got to turn 5 to get after it? Because I told him coming onto the straightaway on the radio, the front straightaway, which was the last corner, you can go. And he said, well, I didn't believe you. But he said, I could tell by the inflection in your voice that you were serious about it, so we made sure we won by that margin. And he's really good at what he does, obviously, and he doesn't just go slow saving fuel. There's a lot of people that go slow saving fuel because that's the only way they know how to do it. But his art of lift and coast and the things that he does, he saves enough fuel to where he can use push to pass when he needs it, and he saves enough fuel to where when he has to do a fast lap or a fast section within a lap, he can do that also. And then he relies on being able to save fuel for the next lap to make up for what he just did. So I think it's hard to get it right, and he has teammates that look at what he's doing and they're trying to understand it, and they share it equally with what goes on with drive style. And I think we have 4 other drivers that are doing a pretty good job, similar to what he does. But yeah, he's really special.
And you have a guy, driver, who was thought to be leaving and stayed. And in my opinion, he made the smartest move he could have made. It just my thought. But he brings a lot to the table. He's an interesting guy. He, during the time of the problems going on, he's never ducked anybody. He's done all the interviews, and he's answered the questions as best he could legally. He hasn't hidden from anybody. And he's a defending champion. What more can you say about him? Good grief.
Yeah. Yeah, his ability to be able to be a podium finder, because that's really what he is. With his drive style and the way he drives to be at the front, and he doesn't make mistakes, and he creates a lot of positive momentum traction off the corner in order to be able to achieve what he does. There's probably nobody in this room nor anybody on this broadcast that in their life has not made mistakes. And it's how you recover from those mistakes that determines if you can win in life, and in his case, you can win on the racetrack and win in life. And he's doing that, and we're happy he stayed with us.
Well, I think that was a smart move on his part. I mean, you come from championships and want to leave, that's kind of silly. And Chip, I'm sure, and you will give him whatever he needs to win, so why leave? So, and Chip is smart enough to have figured out how to keep him, and there's something about what Chip does to get drivers, it's kind of amazing. They come out of nowhere. Where did he come from? When he gets in the car, by golly, he's on a podium. How about that?
Yeah, he won from an early age. He raced Super Formula in Japan as a kid from Spain against, I don't know if people in the room really understand what Super Formula is. Maybe some of you do, but they race on 5 racetracks in Japan. And the car is equivalent to what we race here in IndyCar racing. It's more advanced technically than the car we race, but it's the same size, same power, same everything. And so he had to go over there, not speaking the language. He had to go over there and at the time beat a guy named Yamamoto, who has grown up his entire life racing there, and he was wheel to wheel with Yamamoto for 2 years. So most people that come out of that system that aren't Spanish are from other European countries. They end up in Formula One. So that's where he should have gone. It didn't work for him. But he came to America with a lot. He was ready to hit the ground running, and he did with Dale Coyne. And I'm glad nobody else noticed that.
For those of you who say, who are we talking about? We're talking about Alex Below, the Spanish driver. Super nice guy, always friendly. When you go to interview him, he's there. Ask a question and he'll answer as best he can. How does Chip, or whoever, yourself included, I'm sure, pick on these guys? I mean, you think there's some drivers that you have that the whole paddock should have been after, but you got them.
Well, Chip drove race cars. You talked about that at the front end of this. I drove race cars. I think that's an advantage. Because you can have the smartest person in the room educationally give you all the statistics, but you still have to look that person in the eye. You have to understand what that person's passion is. You have to understand, in our case, that they're not a carnivorous person, that they're aggressive, they're a type A personality, but yet they'll share what they know so they can learn and be better. And I think that between Chip and I over the years, we've made good decisions. We aren't 100%, but I think our batting average is pretty good. But I think it goes back to the instinctive thing that you have, the feel you have for race drivers when you look them in the eye and think to yourself, if I raced against this guy, how would we stack up? And they have to be a bit of a free spirit for us. They can't be a penguin, maybe for the sake of a better word. So we've been pretty fortunate over the years with these guys.
What do you think of the hybrid coming in? Do you think it's a good idea, something that IndyCar needs?
I mean, that's a bit of a loaded question. I'll try not to make the answer loaded. I think yes. I think the direction that they chose to go is what is in the showroom, and it's not electric. It generates power, just like some cars do that you would buy in the showroom, on the showroom floor. And that's what the manufacturers are wanting to do. They are no longer using fossil fuel technology in their automobiles. The board of directors for car manufacturing companies decide these days, based on the accountability rules that are enforced, that they're only going to fund racing programs going forward for the technology that they have. So that's why IndyCar, that's why sports car racing, that's why Formula One, and I'm sure NASCAR, with all the other things that are doing, will soon go in the same direction. That's why people are going that direction. The system that IndyCar wants to employ is pretty mild-mannered by comparison to some of the others. You don't need a rubber suit to run it. But it checks all the boxes, and then it allows the manufacturers to work on running the hybrid system. So they can use their technology once this thing is up and running, so they can still focus with young engineers from their corporations to run the system. So I think it's right. There was some misguidance at the very beginning of it on IndyCar's part, but the two manufacturers that are in the series got in the middle of that, straightened that out, and we were one of the teams that have done a lot of testing with the system. The system now runs well, it's bulletproof. There's meant to be a full field test in early June at Milwaukee. So we'll see what happens from that point forward for the rest of the season.
I had Bill Pappas here, and one thing he said that impressed me was, I think one of the two manufacturers said, "We got what you need. We've got the hybrid unit and the battery to go." And Bill said, "No battery, no way." So they got the capacitor, which does what they needed it to do, which to me was a smart move, because all the things you read about these battery-operated cars, batteries sometimes don't work, and you got a problem. You can't get out, or if it goes dead, you can't get in. You can't do anything. So I thought that was very smart moving forward. What do you think of the tires that Firestone puts that are made out of plants or branches or whatever it is?
I appreciate what Firestone does, number one. It's not, the composition of the rubber meets the road, obviously, but it's the sidewall of the tire that separates them from most other race tire manufacturing companies. That development began, we started with that development in 1994-5 with Bridgestone, with the Japanese version of who manufactures the tire now. And the Japanese engineers developed a tire that would run on an oval with a sidewall. the opposing company is still having problems in their present form of motor racing with the sidewall of the tires. So I think, number one, that's really, really important because it's a safe tire. Safe. When a tire is shredded, with what goes up into the atmosphere, that's the reason that tire companies today are changing the composition of the rubber, because they have to meet the EPA rules to do that. So that's what Firestone is doing with their street production tires. That's what they're doing with their race tires. That's what the other tire companies are also doing. So it's all about the atmosphere that receives what the tire emits as it's being shredded. But the tires are good. They're stable. They work well. When we were growing up, or we were younger guys, in motor racing, at Indianapolis as an example, or at a Can-Am race in the 70s, you name it, the speeds increased, and everybody thought that was the engine technology. It was the tire technology. And today, that tire technology is more defined, but the speed is increasing with the tires as we go forward. So they're doing a good job.
It's interesting now because the track opens for practice Friday,
Yeah.
and then you have the GP on Saturday. They close the track on Sunday and Monday, and you start practicing on Tuesday. And they're giving you a lot of time because there's not any retesting or rookies or anything like that. So you're getting a lot of testing time. How does that affect your tire wear?
I think no matter when you start testing at Indianapolis on the oval, tire wear only gets better with the more rubber that's put down. So at the beginning of the week of testing, I think people will run a lot. They'll change tires a little sooner, but the allotment that IndyCar and Firestone have come up with allows us to probably still have 10 sets of stickers in the pits on Sunday, which is what you need for the race. And they worked really, really hard on the rear tire, the right rear tire especially. That's an improvement from the test we did there recently. So, yeah, the tires will wear out a little faster at the front end of the week. And I think most of the smart people will probably fill up their cars with fuel and use the first part of the week to work on race runs mostly, so that'll be longer runs, to answer your question also. So we'll know what the tire wear is as we go along. So if we start on Tuesday, Wednesday, probably by midday Thursday, we'll have a pretty good idea what the tires are all about.
Can you come to the Speedway with the setups and everything you used last year, and will it work? Or does the tire change?
The tire, you can't, to answer your question. You could start with that, but you're going to go away from that pretty quickly. Some of it's based on how the driver wants to drive the racetrack. And the cars don't weigh the same amount that they weighed last year, so the weight distribution is slightly different front to rear axle. So people will work on that a bit. They've had an opportunity already to do that. One of the positives about going to Indianapolis is that we're a lot further along as race teams, all of us, because of simulation, computer-driven product, and simulators. The drivers actually run laps at Indianapolis, and so they work on the setup. And the tire model is really good in the simulator. I haven't been around a Chevrolet simulator for a while, but the Honda one is pretty good. They've spent a lot of money to develop proper laps, so that it repeats from the simulator now to the racetrack. So that does help.
That was going to be one of my questions. How much knowledge can a driver coming in, and I'm sure the rookies that come in and get a ride before they get in the car, they're on a simulator. How well does that work to show them, and they get the feel for what the racetrack has? It's amazing what they get. I mean, the bumps in the track are on this simulator. How in the world they do that is beyond me.
Yeah, well, that's because they go around and they map the racetrack to begin with. So they map the current racetrack, and that allows them to be able to build the road the way the road is meant to be built. The difference between turn one at Indianapolis in real time and turn one in the simulator is when you hit the fence, you can start again. But outside of that, you work pretty hard on the balance of the car, just like you would at the racetrack, and you make changes. You know, the engineer and the driver will work just as hard in the simulator as they do at the racetrack to understand what the direction of what goes on. And the second thing is Indianapolis is a really interesting place because it's so flat, and the wind is an enormous factor in the setup. You know, in the days of roadsters, it was no different then than it is now. I only watched them as a kid. I never got to be around them when they raced, but I remember someone that worked for us that when he first came to the United States from the UK, he was an engineer, and he paired up with George Bignotti. And I mean, that would have been fantastic. And the guy who was running in the car, it was Morris Nunn, and he was running Roberto Guerrero. Guerrero was really fast at the Speedway.
Yeah, he was.
He was fast. And Morris would go out, you know, and he'd run his car, and he'd be really quick. He'd go back at the end of the day and park his car, and he'd want to just run the same car, the same setup the next day. And George said to him after this, watching this for 2 or 3 days, because in those you practiced for 2 weeks before you ever started to qualify, and then you did the whole thing for another 2 weeks, which we all did. And George said, Morris, let's take a walk out to the front straightaway and just take a look at it. This is before practice. He says, what do you see? Straightaway. Yeah. He said, see the windsock? Yeah. Where was it yesterday? Well, it was going that way. Where's it going today? It's going this way. I said, okay. He said, Morris said, well, what are you going to do, George? He said, well, this is what my setup's going to be today. And he said, why is that? He said, because of the windsock. And that's really what Indy is all about. It's understanding how to read the road. Even with the speeds we run today, with the fact that we have a lot more grip than those people had in those days, from roadsters forward to the cars they ran, we have less power, but we have more grip, and we have more aero grip, and we have a better understanding what the car can do, but it's still all about track conditions. And you know, today, most proper teams will change their setup from carb day to race day, depending on what the track conditions are. Change the whole setup. So that's to answer your question, that's what we do.
Keeps you busy, doesn't it? Keeps you thinking.
We teach you to rely on each other.
Well, what's always been interesting to me is somebody can have a car, they get in, the driver comes, God, this is great. And so the owner says to the other driver, get in the car and see what you think. He gets out of the car and says, this thing is a piece of junk. It scares the hell out of me. How is it that drivers have such different wants when it comes to how a car handles? Some of them want it right on the edge and others don't.
I think one of the biggest differences with driver-drive style is that drivers learn as young drivers wherever they come from, whatever kind of racing, wherever they started, their formative years. They either learn to drive off the front axle or rear axle of a car. You can't drive, it's not a four-wheel drive car. You can't drive off both axles. So to begin with, the setup from one driver to the next, because of that, can be totally different, but they can go the same speed. There were years where we had Dario and Dixon. One drove off the front, one drove off the back. At Indianapolis, they were both equally quick. So what you do in that case with the drivers you have is you read the racetrack with the changes they made to help you run the other car. And that's why sometimes a driver will get in another driver's car and it's either comfortable or it's not to drive. And that's also the reason that really good top quality road racing drivers, their degree of comfort comes from the back, never from the front. So driving a loose car at Indianapolis is not your friend. And the sensitivity that they're used to having going into a corner at a natural terrain road track or a street race doesn't work at Indy, so they have to back that down a little bit, so that even adds more to that complexity. So you just want them to be happy.
Yeah, of course. When I first started following the series back in the early 60s, it seemed to me, as I got into the meeting, got to be in the garage and listen, that the Phoenix racetrack, if you ran good there and had a good setup, that transposed keep coming here, pretty much. Now, of course, they ran some other series in and they screwed up the track, so that doesn't work, and the Indy cars can't run there very well. But is there any place else that can replace Phoenix in a handling situation like Phoenix used to do for the Speedway?
No.
Oh, that's kind of what I thought your answer would be.
Not really. And we don't get to camp out here either, like we once did. There's lots of reasons for that.
Cost probably one.
Yeah, cost really. You know, dinosaurs like people like me, we want to run there all the time. But people are trying to save us from ourselves financially. So, but it's no, Indianapolis is definitely its own place these days.
What do you think about the new team that's supposed to be joining next year with 2 cars right out of the box?
Prima.
Yeah.
Enormously successful race team. They've won in every category that they've been in. They aren't the only team that has or will or in the future will come to IndyCar racing with a pedigree like that. I think building an IndyCar team is about the melding of all the people that you have as one. You have to build your team, you have to build the framework, you have to do all of those things. And the proof of their existence in IndyCar racing going forward will be how patient they are to do it. If they become impatient, like other teams have, it will slow down their growth spurt. So I think Renee, the guy that owns the thing is a really good guy. From sports car racing, with the European sports car races I've gone to the last few years, I spent time talking to him. He's a switched-on guy. We'll just see how that works in America. And the other thing is you have to adapt to. I think you have to adapt to the way that we race in the United States. It's just a different way of looking at motor racing. If they do those things together, they can win races.
Well, the interesting thing is, there's already talk about a couple tracks, Toronto being one. We don't have the pit area, Nashville being another one. We don't have the pit area for 2 more cars. Now what do? Well, make more pit area.
Well, I mean, the easy statement there is that's a good problem to have.
Yes, it is.
But without really shooting a gun off at these people, some of the racetracks where we race, the pit lanes can be extended.
Yeah.
If promoters want to promote IndyCar racing, they want to be partners in this thing. IndyCar and the promoters have to accept the fact that maybe 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years from now, when the next recession hits, that we're not going to have 27, 28, 29 cars. 3 years ago we had 18. And everybody was screaming and yelling about the fact we needed more cars. Now they have more cars, but they weren't proactive enough to look to what that means. So I think it's a good thing. I think Mr. Penske doing what he's doing with the series is the right thing. He understands IndyCar racing, and he has a massive passion for it. And he will find a solution for it. There's a lot of people, because of social media, that have opinions that are very public. Some of them are very valid and some aren't. But I just go back to what I said in the last sentence. Mr. Penske's the guy that will make this happen the right way.
And I have to say, I think IndyCar made a right decision with what they did with the problem that occurred, that they discovered at Long Beach. And I think what Roger has done also is good, so that the fans understand, just because he's a big guy, he doesn't avoid anything. They didn't give him a slap on the wrist. They penalized him, which is, in my opinion, was a smooth move, a smart move, and the right move.
Yeah. You know, he has the balls to do what he did. He took the time to understand what happened first, and understood what not only public accountability means, but what personal and Penske racing accountability means. And he took charge and he did what he did for the right reasons. And I don't know if people understand what happens when a team cheats. Because normally, 90% of the time, if a team is cheating, whether anybody realizes it or not, the driver is never part of it. The driver doesn't even know. So in this case, I don't know what to think about the way that was represented by the drivers, but the reality is the drivers had to know something, and I think Mr. Penske, with due diligence, did the right thing.
I agree. And I think it's good for the series that the fans can say, aha, he didn't get a slap, he got penalized, and he took it from there. President of Penske Racing is missing 2 races.
Well, he's no different than I am. We're basically in the same job. He's called a president, I'm called something else, but the reality is he runs Penske Racing, and it isn't because he just jumped into that job or through the Peter principle that happened for him. He loves IndyCar racing. He loves IndyCar racing. His heart and soul is in IndyCar racing, no matter what he does in his day job to run all the other things that Penske Racing does, which are sports car racing and NASCAR. You know, he's involved in all of that, but I don't know what I would do or how I would react if I was Tim Cindric, because I know what it means. For him to miss the Indianapolis 500, that's got to be very, very difficult.
I would think, extremely. Well, I tell you what, I appreciate you taking the time to be here. It's amazing how you and Scott have got to be thinking the same thing almost at the same time. And he can pick up in your voice when you're serious and you tell him he can do something. He doesn't quite, well, he does question it and then realizes, aha, he's right. And he knows it, and off we go.
Yeah, he's from the very first race that we won together, which was a long time ago now. That was at Homestead. I can't remember exactly how we were racing against, I think, Sam Hornish at the time. And we were new in that series. We'd just come over from the kart series. And we had a good race car, but so did Sam. And I said something to him on the radio. I can't remember what it was, but I told him, hey, our car's better than this guy's car. We can win this race. And he did. The inflection part these days does exactly what you're talking about.
He understands what you mean when you say it. And listens to you, fortunately. And he's second all
Well, we
time.
listen to each other, but that's how it works.
And he's got time, he's young enough yet, he can catch Eatery.
Yeah.
He's got, what, 9 more wins he needs?
Yeah.
Time?
Yeah. You know, when I was growing up and I watched AJ and Mario race against each other, I watched them try to kill each other at Ascot when I was young. And for a 200 lapper, I think it was, in the dirt there. And they didn't win. They managed to make sure neither one of them did. But got to watch those guys race cars and never thought that this opportunity, like it's happened, would happen. Especially, you know, these days with everything that goes on with motor racing, who would have ever thought that this guy would have won as many races as he's won, and get to see it, and probably not for a long time get the credit, not get the credit for what he's accomplished.
But if you ever get a chance to talk to him, and now you can. When he first time I had him on a program, I had to pry answers out of him. But now he does interviews and he talks nice.
Yeah, one of the most impressive things that I've seen with Scott Dixon was in March, he was inducted in the Motorsports Hall of Fame. in Daytona Beach. So, and that room was full of heroes. And a lot of them come back that have already won their award in their category. And the standing ovation that he received from all those people was pretty impressive. Yeah, he's definitely worth the price of admission.
Yes, he is. It's fun to watch. Well, I appreciate your time. I know you got to get back to work. Starts tomorrow.
I'm not working tonight,
No,
no, I'm done.
starts tomorrow. Getting ready for the Grand Prix.
Unless the chip calls.
I noticed you turned your phone off in case you did. Well, I appreciate your time. Thanks for good luck in the 500.
Thank you.
And as I mentioned, a couple of drivers I'd like to shang. If you could help me, I'd appreciate it.
Well, you know, we'll work on that for a small carrying charge.
Yeah,
We'll see what we can do
fine.
there. Okay.
Thanks for being here.
Okay, thank you.
The Managing General Partner of Ganassi Racing, Mike Hall.
Thank you. I'll work on that for you.
Thank you.
Okay.
My next guest is probably my hero. He started out with a cassette recorder and listening to the race and recording the call. From that start, he has joined the IMS radio network, and I had the honor and privilege of not only listening to all the nonsense in the production trailer before the race and after between himself, Dave the King Wilson, Wally Lovett, and went on to become the voice of the Indianapolis 500. And on top of that, he was just inducted into the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Hall of Fame. Please welcome Mr. Mark Jaynes.
Well, I hope at some point to get to that, but it was actually the Indiana Sports Writers and
That's right,
Sports
yeah.
Broadcasters
That's
Hall
right,
of Fame,
that's
so.
Well, you're a sports broadcaster.
Thank you, yeah.
You're in the Hall of Fame. That's interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting, Don. Good to be with you again, for sure. And we had been overseas seeing my wife's family, and it was last summer, and we landed at the airport in Atlanta, and waiting on our connecting flight, and got a phone call from Paul Cadre, who's with Indiana Sports Writers and Sports Broadcasters, and is the head of regional radio sports in Northern Indiana, and he welcomed me to the Hall of Fame and said, "You can tell your immediate family, but you got to sit on it until January." So had to keep it quiet until then, and that's when they made it official. And we had an event about a month ago at Valley Vista on the south side, and very gracious Dave First, Vice President of Communications for IndyCar, and a member of our radio network for a long time, and more importantly, a friend for a number of years. Went to work, and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway sponsored the event. Doug Bowles and Jay Fry and Arnie Schrieben were all kind enough to be there, along with Dave and many members of the radio network, and of course my family and some of my former teachers and coaches that have served me as mentors and friends over the years. So it was quite a day for sure.
Well, I think, as I said, I wasn't aware of it. I don't know why. I don't get on my computer that much anymore, so I didn't see it. But if anyone deserves it, in my
Thank
opinion, you certainly do.
Thank you.
And the only time that I was, for a number of, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, that I went up with you during the race, and you'd be calling what's going on in the front, and I'm watching in the back in case something happens, so you'd be able to call it and tell the guy in turn 4 what's happening.
We had a lot of fun for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But the one time that I said, not today, was in Milwaukee. In turn 3, there's a big board up there and a ladder, and the ladder was like this. And I thought, with my 280 pounds, I don't need to climb that thing. I might come down faster than I went up. So, but that's the only.
Yeah, I don't think OSHA ever made its way around to that scaffolding at turn number 3. I think they moved right past that. So the first time I took Jake Query on the road with us, Jake's been with us for a number of years now. He did go up in that perch, and he literally froze trying to get down. He couldn't get down out of it, and it took some coaxing and some coaching, and I finally. The other place you never went up with me was the billboards at California Speedway at Fontana.
That's true.
Yeah, because it was a little precarious.
Well, I said I can see from here.
Yeah, that's right.
You got a better view, but I can see.
Right.
And at that time, those years, the production trailer was absolutely the place to be.
Yeah,
It
for
was-
sure. I mean, we hung out there a lot, told a lot of stories, and we're very kind to one another. But it was, it was tough love, is what it was. And those were some memorable times for sure. I had somebody ask me the other day if I missed. They said they were listening to some of the 500s from the 15 years that I was in turn 3. And asked me if I missed being out on the course calling the action, and I said I do unless it's cold or rainy, and then I'm fine with being the anchor. So, yeah.
And if I hadn't mentioned it, and I didn't, he is the anchor for all of the IndyCar events.
Yeah.
So you get to listen to him, and I listen to you frequently.
Thank you.
And enjoy very much. Now, you're in education, so you have students. What subject are you teaching your youngins?
I teach communications, basically a lot of video production and sports play-by-play. We're a part of the IHSAA Champions Network, and we live stream high school basketball games, boys and girls. We did some boys volleyball the other day. We also live stream football games, and pretty pleased at the fact that we have 7 former students now who are in communications programs at colleges and universities. One student's already graduated from film school, and she's doing commercial video production in Nashville, Tennessee. So got about 65 kids in our program, started 6 years ago with one class and 10 kids. And, I hear, education gets a bad rap, and I hear that a lot of teachers are disgruntled and they aren't supported, but I'm really lucky because our superintendent, Dr. Kirk Freeman, and our principal, Mike Springer, are the absolute best, and they provide a positive environment not only for their staff but for their kids as well. And they give me the freedom and flexibility I need to do things like this and the high school broadcast I do. So I appreciate that for sure.
You don't, initially you traveled to all the events, but
Right.
you don't do that anymore. And believe it or not, there was a couple of broadcasts I listened to, and I swore I thought you were there listening to it.
I mean, that's the
And I
good
found out
news,
you
bad news about technology for sure. I mean, during COVID, we figured out a way to be able to pull that off. We sent a couple of pit reporters, and then with the multi-screen monitor we have that provides us 12 camera views from around the racetrack, we can, kind of call it from the studio in Indy. And I was happy that this year we're starting to move back toward all of us being on the road more. So I think the only ones we're not going to be on site for in terms of me and one other person, we'll have 2 pit reporters, sometimes 3, and 2 turn announcers on site. And the only ones that the full crew won't be at, St. Pete, we weren't at Thermal, and then all the races on the West Coast.
They're not going to let you go to California?
I'm fine with that.
Okay. Well, the governor's looking.
I miss
forward
Long Beach. I won't lie. I miss Long Beach. I love going there.
Oh, yeah,
It's a great event for a number of reasons. But
Yes.
but I mean, if they came tomorrow and said next year you're back on the road full travel, I'd be okay with that too. I mean, because clearly there's a bit of a disconnect. I mean, when we were at Barber last week during one of the Indy Next sessions, I went down to the paddock and was able to talk to crew chiefs and drivers and team managers and things of that nature and ask questions and got a lot of information I could use throughout the course of the weekend. And clearly that's a little more difficult to do when I'm in a studio on 16th Street and, they're at the racetrack. But,
If you call them, they don't answer the phone.
yeah, that's right. We found a way to make it work, and we think it's still a good product. But there's no question, and I don't care if it's baseball, football, or basketball, whatever the case may be. There's just nothing that beats being there live. But the reality of it, sometimes it boils down to finances. And if you can still produce a good product and do it for a little less money, I think about any business is gonna do it that way.
Now, I gotta mention, it was reported somewhere I saw that you went on a blind date about 38 years ago.
Yeah, she's sitting right there.
And she's still around.
Now she's not blind.
No.
That question may come up for obvious reasons, but no, yeah, we, my roommate studied with the girl, and she would come over to my apartment, and she kept saying, "I've got somebody you got to meet, somebody you got to meet," telling her the same thing, and I think finally we both agreed to meet just to, the girl would leave us alone and quit bringing it up. And so, yeah, we went out on a blind, just in February was the 38th anniversary of that blind date, so.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, she's had the double whammy. She's been the wife of a traveling broadcaster and a high school football coach, and we're still married, so that's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of being a high school football coach, your son is a high school football coach.
Yeah, he was the defensive coordinator for 2 years at Speedway after being a defensive assistant at Zionsville. And then this last year, he moved to coach the secondary at Ben Davis. And it was a pretty special night for our family when I was able to do play-by-play on the IHSAA Champions Network and watch him win a state championship at Ben Davis as an assistant coach. It's a pretty cool moment for our family. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, I guess the only thing I can say is you got to be a jock. Were you a hell of a football player?
No, that's why I talk about it, because I was very good. Matter of fact, my inspiration, and I've told this story before, it was Hall Elementary School. It was just outside of Monrovia, and Niall Denny was my principal, and he was a retired officer, military, and was brutally honest. And he stopped me. I could take you out there today and show you where it is because the school building's still there. Come up off the playground from recess, the steps to go in the building. He called me Howard Cosell, and he said, "Howard, a word, please." And I said, "Yes, sir." And he goes, I was in 5th grade. He goes, "What do you think you want to do with your life someday?" And I said, "I'm going to be a Major League Baseball player." And he said, "Well, I've watched you play softball the past couple of days on recess. You might want to rethink that because you're not very good." And he said, "But because of your obvious inability to keep your mouth shut and your obvious love of sports, you ought to think about a career in broadcasting and journalism." So we went down to his office, which I was happy to do because I was in there for the right reason for a change, and spent about an hour. And for whatever the reason, it stuck with me. And then, it was later that I asked for that cassette recorder you mentioned for Christmas, and started doing mock Indy 500s and watching ball games on TV and calling them back into a cassette recorder. And then it was about my freshman or sophomore year that I got, I think, my big break. I'd become a student manager for our high school football team, and just started that. And they had a live-in camp. And so my parents were going on vacation to Colorado Springs, so I called the football coach, Wayne Staley, and I said, "Hey, I won't be at football camp." It was a live-in camp. "I won't be there because I've got to go on vacation with my parents." And I said, "So I'll see you when I get back." And he said, "No, you won't." He said, "In order for us to be successful, we've got to have a commitment from every coach, every player, and even our managers." He said, "I appreciate all the work you've done with us all summer, and we'd love to have you, but if you're going to go on vacation, then you can't be a part of our program. We need that commitment." And something convinced me to stay. And I asked my parents if I could stay with my grandparents for a couple of days until camp started. And they were quick to say yes, which indicates to me they really didn't want me and my sister in the back of a car all the way to Colorado Springs, so they were happy to let me stay home. So I walked into Coach's office on Monday, and he said, "I'm glad you're here." And then about 3 weeks later, I was in journalism class at Monrovia High School, and I got called down to his office, and I walked in and was introduced to the sports director at WCBK in Martinsville. And he offered me a job doing 3-minute sports reports for Monrovia football and basketball. I got paid $5 a game. I had to call it in by 11 p.m. If I missed my deadline at any point this season, any money that I had made was wiped out, and I didn't get paid until the season was over. But if I'd have gone on vacation with my parents, I don't know that I would be sitting here today.
Oh, I'd still talk to you.
Yeah. But I mean, that changed the whole course of my life, that decision. So,
Well, it's amazing. You get a thought in your mind and you're going to do it, and your parents agree with you. I had a couple of occasions where I didn't want to go on vacation. I was playing baseball at the time, and I didn't go on from it, but I did well in American Legion, and glad I didn't go on vacation. Sort of would have had a good time, but you do what you do, what your heart tells you to do, and to think of how you started and how you worked your way up to become the voice of the 500. You know, there haven't been that many people in the world that
Yeah.
could say they are the voice of the Indianapolis 500.
I think I'm number 6 in 75 years or something like that,
Yeah.
so.
And to realize that the world can listen to you. I mean, IMS Radio Network is worldwide, is it not?
Well, I remember in '96 when I was a pit reporter. I started the second weekend, and my dear friend and mentor Bob Jenkins, who I miss every day, my very first assignment was to go talk to Danny Ungaius, and he was put in the car after Scott Brayton was killed. And so I remember walking up to the garage, and he was leaning against the back of the car, and I disconnected my microphone because I wanted him to know that that part of the conversation was off the record. And I said to him, I introduced myself, and I said, this doesn't really mean anything to you. I said, but you are my very first assignment with this network, and this job is a dream come true. And I said, I would really appreciate it if you'd give me a couple of minutes here. And I said, I think you'll understand, people want to hear from you. And he said, it's an interesting approach. He said, don't mention Scott Brayton. Don't say his name. Don't ask me about it. Don't say anything about him. Don't ask me about him. And we'll be fine. If you mention him, I'm walking away. He asked me about the car, what we're going to do, and so that's exactly the way I handled it. And he patted me on the back before I walked away and told me nice job. And you know, I went through my first 500, and I got home that night. She'll tell you I didn't sleep the night before. And I got home, and she asked me how I thought it went. And I said, well, I got a lot of pats on the back and a lot of attaboys. And I said, I don't know if they'll call me back, but I said, you know, I did it once, and that's more than a lot of guys get to that want to. And so for 28 years now, I've been playing with house money, Don. So worked out okay.
Well, I know I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being with you. You were very professional.
Thank you.
When I'd sit and think of something stupid I could say about what's going on, I knew better than to do that, because I'd have probably got your
That wasn't a
microphone
challenge for you, though, was it?
No.
It was just always right there on the tip of your tongue, you know,
yeah.
just effortlessly.
But, you know, I'd listen to how you were calling the race, and as they'd come out of turn 2 and come down the back straight and heading into 3, you'd call it, and my assignment was, don't watch them, watch them.
Yeah, that's right.
Back
I
there.
needed you to look where I wasn't
Yeah,
looking.
and every so often, something would happen back there, and I would give you a little tap, and you'd pick up on it right away, and in turn, 4 guys were ready for it, and
Yeah.
it made the broadcast.
We had a pretty good system for sure.
Well, you've gone on. I'm still in the same place I started 60-some years ago. I haven't gone past Autosport.
Yeah, you've done okay. I mean, you're, you know, the amount of promotion that you've given, especially young and up and coming drivers. I mean, it's one thing to have the Mike Holes in here, and let me say this, folks, in terms of accessibility and professionalism and class, they don't come any better than Mike Hole. I wish he was here to hear that. Anytime I remember a few years ago when Scott, I believe, had a motor let go for qualifying, and you know, a lot of teams would have pulled it in the garage and shut the door, and Mike Hole understood that there were people out there that wanted to know what was going on and how that process was unfolding. And he stood right by that door, and anytime any one of our pit reporters walked up and needed something, he was right there to answer the question. Under all that pressure, he still knew that we were a way to get that information out, and he's a class act for sure.
Is the IMS Radio Network worldwide?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's changed because, you know, once upon a time we had hundreds of affiliates all over the country and went around the world. And I think that technology has changed a lot of that. I mean, we probably don't have the number of terrestrial radio stations that we once had, but we're on Sirius XM. All of our shows are on Sirius XM. We're on the TuneIn app, we're on the Mixler app, we're on IndyCarRadio.com, we're on IndyCar.com. So there are literally scores of platforms and methods by which people can listen to us these days, and you know, take us pretty much anywhere they go.
Do you get requests or comments from people around the world?
Yeah, we get a lot of notification via social media. I mean, a lot of folks that follow us will send us direct message on Twitter or X or whatever they're calling it these days. Once upon a time, Sid communicated by telegram.
Yeah.
I was listening to right. Once upon a time, we have all this technology available to us and all this timing and scoring and everything in our booth. And, they used to, in the old master control tower setup, they'd have to walk down, 2 flights of stairs to get timing and scoring because they didn't have anything in the booth. And I remember one year, Sid is reading a telegram on the air, and he goes, this comes to us from Waterloo, Iowa, and folks, we understand your frustration, and while we'd love to be able to give you the running order, quite frankly, we just don't have time for that because there's too much going on. So we'll try to let you know who's leading as soon as, and who the top 10 are as soon as we get that information. So that's how much things have changed over the years.
It's amazing what can be done.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I don't understand a lot of it. Maybe it's just as well that I don't. Or I'm
Well,
not
the speed and immediacy of it too, because it became obvious as the cars became faster for us. When I first started with the network, even in the late 90s and early 2000s, we were putting 4 turn announcers out for qualifying, and we don't do that anymore. We put 1 and 2 and 1 and 3 because we've got to be able to get the time and speed report posted before they get, and there wasn't enough time when they crossed the start-finish line, there wasn't enough time for me to give that and get it back to the guy in turn 1. So now we just drop it to turn 2. Yeah.
Amazing. And what do you think about the Penske situation with what happened and what Roger has ultimately steps he's taken to rectify it? And
Well, there's going to be critics that say that, the response should have come a little quicker from him, but I don't think he's gotten where he is by making knee-jerk reactions to things. I think that, once he found out about it, I think he went on a fact-finding mission and gathered all the information. I think he let the series handle their portion of it with the penalties, which were significant, obviously. And then he decided to conduct his own internal investigation, and not that he lays awake at night and worried about it, but I'm satisfied with how it was handled, and that's not me towing a company line or anything. I think that some of the conversations I've had with some of the people behind the scenes, I think oftentimes when sometimes decisions come as a result of you make rule changes and changes to things once you find out something's happened. I think the series by and large has always attempted to be proactive. At times it's going to have to be reactive because you can't cover all bases all the time. And I think they realized that there was a glitch in how things were being done, and I think everything's been done to make sure that what happened with push to passes is not possible and it's not going to happen again.
And I think, as I said to Mike, I think IndyCar's reaction was the right thing to do, because had they just slapped him on the wrist and said, oh, that wasn't good, I think would have hurt the series. And now the people, the fans, and I've got a lot of emails, wow, they really have come down on it. Yeah, they did, and he stepped up. And I think it's good for the series.
Yeah, and the suspensions are significant because those are two pretty big pieces of, a couple of big pieces of the puzzle that are going to be missing from the biggest race in the world. So,
So are you ready to go for this year, the 108th? Are you set for the 108th?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we better be because it's here. It's the most wonderful time of the year for us, that's for sure. I mean, we'll have our staff gets together and we act like we like one another tomorrow for a while for breakfast. No, we do, though. I mean, there's such a mutual respect and admiration that we have for one another and a friendship there, which makes it special. We've all been together for so very many years. And we're excited this year to add Rich Nye, who's a longtime multimedia journalist here in Indianapolis as a pit reporter this year. We look forward to Rich and his contributions. But the crew is essentially the same. I mean, it'll go to Nick Yeoman, Michael Young, Jake Query, and Kristen Airy, and then Alex Wolf, who's a fairly new addition to the network, a talented young broadcaster, and Rod Blackman, who's still riding high from the Boilermakers' performance in the NCAA tournament, except for the last game, of course.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Ryan Marine, who covers, I think in the span of a week and a half recently, Ryan Marine was covering an IndyCar race in Long Beach, and then he covered a race in Japan, and then flew back and covered something at Sebring, all in about 7 to 10 days. So he's a talented young broadcaster, and we'll have Davey Hamilton back with us, and are excited about that. We'll have contributions from Paul. To give you a little sneak peek, we've arranged for Paul and JR, we'll have a conversation, Johnny Rutherford, at our pre-race show to talk about this being the 50th anniversary of his win in the McLaren. So we're excited about that because they've been friends for a number of years. So that'll be something to look forward to on race day. And then, yeah, we'll have the Grand Prix, both Indy Next and IndyCar covered wall to wall. And then we'll start on Tuesday of next week. We'll cover live all the practice sessions, and then get ready for qualifying and be on the air nonstop both days, and then of course carb day and race day.
So in other words, the students in Monrovia will miss you for a few days.
Well, it works out well for me because with the practice schedule, we split it up. We have a couple of the guys come in and work the morning portion of the practice session, and then I come in and do the afternoon. And so my classes wrap up around 1 o'clock, and I'm due on the air at 3. And I think they probably feel like the children are better off when I'm not there anyway, Don, so they don't mind me being gone, so.
Well, all I know is it's been a thrill and a pleasure for me to have helped you and been a part of what you did. I had nothing to do with your stepping up because I was quiet, just going, hey, look at here. But to say now that I helped a little bit for a guy who's now in the Sportscasters Hall of Fame is phenomenal. And I think
Well, this gig has brought some wonderful people and treasured friends into my life, and you're among those for sure. So thank you for all you've done for me and my family over the years, and I value your friendship and continued success on what you do here. This is awesome.
Well, we'll be listening. I'm sure many of us, like myself, I turn the TV sound down and listen to you. You're a little behind them, but that doesn't matter.
That's all right.
That doesn't matter. All right, I appreciate your time, and congratulations on 38 years, and may there
Thank
be
you.
another 20 for, if she could stand it,
Yeah.
another 20 years.
It's a challenge.
I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure.
And some of your sorry jokes, I gotta think it would be a challenge.
Thanks, Don.
But listen in. If you don't want to listen to television, turn it down. Listen to Mark and his gang. It's a good thing. Please say thanks to my good friend, Mr. Mark Jaynes.
Thank you.
As I said, we will be back doing this a week from today, the 14th, but we will be at McGilvery's. I am working on some guests that I want to bring in, and I got to hustle because some of them are out of town testing at the moment, so I'll have to get it near the end of the week, but we look forward to being there. And then on the 23rd, we will be here at 7 o'clock, and my friend from California will be here, a 30-year participant in the Indianapolis 500. In fact, more than 30 years because he was a driver and a team owner. Mr. Dick Simon will be here. And I'm also going to try and drag in Roger Ward Jr., who is always full of hooey anyway, and listen to what he has to say. So until next week, I want to say thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Until next week, we'll see you then.